All right, hey everyone, how are we doing?
Good.
Good? It's Thursday, right? I think we're almost there. So thanks for coming out today. My name is Brian. I work here in the Dean's Office in the Lurie College of Education. So appreciate you all coming out to the scholarship workshop to learn about the scholarship application process and how you can apply and hopefully earn some scholarships for the upcoming academic year. We have Christine here from the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office, so she'll be walking you through what that process looks like, thinking about it from the university level and the college level. We also have Danielle here, who is a professor in the Child and Adolescent Development Department, and she's one of the faculty members on the Scholarship Review Committee. So she's one of 5 faculty members that reviews all of your applications so we can determine who should get all the scholarships. So before we get into the details of what the process looks like and how you go about doing it, we wanted to share a resource with you first. So let me pull up Chrome real quick. So if you were to go to the College of Education website, which is sjsu.edu/education, you'll see our new website pop up in a second. And one of the tabs in the navigation bar is called Student Success. And then in that drop-down menu, there's an option called Financial Aid Opportunities. So that page will highlight some information about scholarships, but then we also have a lot of other grant awards that are available if you're doing research and you need funding for supplies or to attend conferences. We also have some information about CSU scholarships that are available. So we have all that information kind of in one place. So wanted to show you, just show you that page, but also on that page we've embedded a video of insights, advice, recommendations from students who received scholarships for this current academic year. So wanted to share that with you as well.
I have gone through the last 4 years of school and I did not apply for scholarships until my very last semester, and I was pleasantly surprised to be able to have not one, but 2 scholarships. And now I wish that I had actually taken the time and put in for those scholarships.
At the transfer orientation, I actually learned that people don't often apply, so my first big advice would be just to apply. I was definitely nervous and thought that I wouldn't qualify or maybe I wouldn't get picked, but I just went for it anyway, and it actually ended up working in my favor.
It doesn't hurt, even if you qualify for maybe some of the some of the scholarship, or you're missing one piece that may not apply to you. It's definitely good to apply anyway, because sometimes they may give an exception if your other parts of your application are good.
At first, I'm going to be honest, I was very generic. I started responding the questions in a way where I believe they wanted to hear what they wanted to hear. But then I came to a point where I actually started being honest, and I started writing as myself and just coming from the heart. I think that made my application stood up.
Even if you don't think it's, you have a very interesting story to tell, your story matters and it is important.
There's something wonderful about each and every one of us. Take a lot of time to think about what you've done in your life, the different maybe extracurricular or different volunteer, or even if it's not anything specific like that, your upbringing and your life story. I would take time to reflect on that and kind of pick apart at what sort of things reflect your character.
I try to focus as much on about my why. So what drives me to do this work? What impact do I hope to have?
Talk about things that you're interested in, your hopes, and be honest about them, because those that read over scholarship applications are looking for that, and they want to find students who are determined and just truly authentic and understand who they are.
It can be awkward to sell yourself, but you got to learn to sell yourself. I think seeing the positive in yourself and communicating that is a useful skill, so it's like helpful for scholarships, but in the bigger picture it's also important to be able to do that just for your own well-being.
High impactful writing is a way that you can really get your story across, and ensuring that every word on that piece of paper or a document that you're typing is important. I think you'll have a higher chance of receiving a scholarship in the long run.
You don't need a 4.0 GPA to apply for scholarships. All of the scholarship applicants, they all offer something different, and the donors, they're looking for something unique for their recipients. Maybe you're involved in a club on campus or Greek life, or you do volunteer work, or maybe you really do focus on your academics. There's something for you. I feel like we get too caught up in, I need to have straight A's, they're not going to care, I can't write the best essays, they're not going to choose me. But in reality, there's opportunities for everyone out there.
Just think about the times that you took initiative to be a leader within your community, whether that was like inside the classroom or outside the classroom, times where you stepped up, you led other people, you shared your creativity and your ideas, and you really felt like you had a voice.
Take the time and just apply.
Apply early.
All these things require, 30 different forms, and each form requires a lot of legwork and can be intimidating and overwhelming at first, but I found that if you just approach it one thing at a time, you'll be able to have a lot of success.
You just have to take the time to actually go through the process and complete the application. And those are things that I force myself to do.
Have their work proofread and have trusted others double check it.
There's basically a standardized or centralized website. It will help you kind of drill down on what areas of scholarships you're most eligible for. Managing the time around submitting everything, I think, is the most important piece.
Read through all of your options and pick the ones that really speak to you and feel like you connect with. It'll make it easier as you write your essay because it'll already feel like you fit in to it. So for example, when I saw the Marion Silker Scholarship for Arts and Education, I thought, I do arts integration in my job now. That's something I want to do. Like, a lot of the things that they were listing felt like that fit who I was and wanted to do. It didn't feel like a stretch. So it makes it easier to write fluently, write authentically. Take your time, really think about what you want to say, and good luck.
Cool. So hopefully that was a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of practical takeaways. You may have seen some of your classmates. We had a cameo from Leslie back there on the video too. So so just wanted to show you that just to kick things off, and now we can get into the details of it. So with that, I'll transition it off to Christine.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I hope you guys are doing well. So I'm Christine and I am with the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office. I will be going over today just in general scholarships, and specifically for the College of Education, and then also just different opportunities that you may have here as a student in your search for scholarships. We know that cost of attendance is very high, and so any type of funding to help alleviate those costs is very resourceful, and you would want that for you during your journey here as a student. As I go through this, please feel free to interrupt and raise your hand if you have any questions, need clarification. I want this to be helpful for you, so if you guys have any questions, just feel free to just ask as we go through. So just what we're going over today, just different types of scholarships. What are they? Where can you look for them? And how can you choose the ones that are best for you moving forward as you are a student here? I'll be going over specifically our Spartan Scholarship application, which is an application that is geared specifically for you guys here, just only open to SJSU students on campus. So right now, the SJSU Spartan application is open. So this is a time frame that you would really want to sit down and just carve out some time to put together your application. Okay? And then lastly, just tips and pointers, and I'll also just be asking both Brian and Danielle to share any tips and pointers that they have. They see a lot of the application side, so they're great resources if you guys have any questions for them as well. So there are 3 types of scholarships that you want to take a look at during your journey of navigating through scholarships. The first one are campus-based scholarships. So as the name shows, these are scholarships that are specifically offered through donors here at San Jose State. So these are scholarships that are set up by different donors that approach San Jose State, and they want to create scholarships and funds that go specifically for students here who are pursuing just an undergraduate or a graduate degree with SJSU. So to apply for campus-based scholarships, this would be through the Spartan Scholarship application. Okay, so that's how you'll be put into the eligibility pool for specifically the campus-based scholarships. So currently it is open. Deadline is May 1st. So you want to make sure that you put that on your calendar. May 1st is coming up soon. I know it's kind of still like a few months, but it'll approach quickly. So you want to make sure that you do submit the application by May 1st. I'll show you how to access it, but just make sure you put a note on your calendar for May 1st. Campus-based opportunities are offered every year as well. So that means you want to apply every year. So if you applied last year and you think you're not eligible, you are eligible. So make sure every year that you are a student here that you do submit the Spartan application every year. Okay. So just to kind of share also, once you submit your Spartan application, that application will be putting you in the eligibility pool for the next academic year. So the deadline of May 1st of this year, once we receive all the applications and the committee selects students, those awards will actually be given to you for the 2020 to 2021 academic year. Okay, so we're always awarding you, I would say, 1 year prior to when you're receiving the funds. So the second category you see are department-based scholarships. So these are also specifically only for San Jose State students. However, they are more, I would say, specific in criteria based on your major, based on your field of study, what school you fall under. Okay, so there's 2 levels. There's the campus-based, which are more broad in criteria. So for example, just a matriculated SJSU student with a certain GPA, right? So it's kind of very broad. Once we get to department-based, it kind of funnels down a little bit more specific to maybe a student in the art department, a student for you guys in the School of Education, and then your specific fields of study as well. Okay, so that's how it breaks down. So you want to apply for both campus-based and also department-based scholarships. Okay, what's great about College of Education is they are utilizing the Spartan application. So that means for you guys here, it's a one-stop shop. Okay, so the Spartan application will house both the campus-based and the department-based scholarships. Okay, so that's why it's important that you submit your Spartan application. For the department-based scholarships for College of Education, the deadline is also May 1st. So thankfully it's the same deadline. So just make sure that you guys jot that down. Okay. Any questions about these 2 categories? Yes.
So what are departments that are not housed in the Spartan base?
There are some that aren't. So every department, like for example, like engineering or like sciences, there's like different departments on campus. Oh, right, so they may have like their own paper application. Yeah, so every department functions differently. Some have like a PDF, or they have like their own Google form. Majority of them do utilize our application, but for departments that don't use our Spartan application, students would have to submit our application for campus-based, and then their department has like a separate application. Yeah. And then lastly, there is a category called external scholarships. These are scholarships that are not offered by SJSU. However, they're offered by private companies, organizations, community partners surrounding SJSU. So these would be companies that offer scholarships to students that may attend any four-year institution. So that would open it up to students at other schools as well, right? So it wouldn't be necessarily just San Jose State students that they're offering to, but university students in general. The benefit of external scholarships are there's just a wide array. So you can find one based on something really random that we saw, like a student showed me, was like based on like, I think it was one that was like really specific with some type of like gene, that if you have this type of like gene that runs in your family, you can apply for this particular scholarship. There's ones that, maybe are for like single parents, or ones that are just more specific, that maybe geared towards a certain like season of your life as well too. So external scholarships also don't have one set deadline date, meaning they're offered throughout the year. So even now, I know we're already into spring semester. However, let's say there's an external scholarship with a deadline of like 2 weeks from now. Technically, they could still award you funds for this year, right? So that's the flexibility of external scholarships. They're not just simply all one deadline date, but they are spread out throughout the year in terms of their deadline dates. So that gives you the flexibility during your search if you're looking for funding for this particular academic year and also for the future. Okay. We do have a catalog on our website. So when I refer to our website, it is the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office website. Our abbreviation is FASO. So just SJSU FASO. Under the scholarships category, you'll see a blue link that says external scholarships. So when you do click on that, it will show you I would say like an online catalog where you can actually go through. It's sorted by deadline date. So the ones that are upcoming, it starts with that, and then as they get farther off in the months. So we do have that listing on there for you if you would like to utilize that during your search. That may be helpful. With external scholarships, it does take a little more research because you would have to read the eligibility requirements for each one and make sure that, are you a fit or are you not a fit? And then also just to stay organized with all of their deadline dates. So for the campus-based application, it will be just a simple general application is what we call it once you log in. You'll see on our website, so this is the link to our website. You'll see a big blue button that says apply for SJSU scholarships. So that would be the link to the online portal. So once you click on that link, it'll prompt you to log in with your student ID number and your password, just your regular SJSU password. Once you log in, it'll pull up for you your specific general scholarship application. Okay, so that first page that you'll see is what we call just that general application, which puts you in the eligibility for campus-based opportunities. Okay, so that first page, it's just really simple bio data. So, your name, your GPA, and then answering what we call 2 scholarship essay prompts. So that's where you'll input that information on that page. So you can go in and edit that page as many times as you need and submit it at the bottom. That submit is not like a one and done. So that submit, you can go back, you can edit as many times as you need up until May 1st. So we won't see anything official until May 1st. It is necessary that you do click submit to go on to the second page, where you'll see your department scholarships. So it is important that you do submit that first page. Even if you have like a draft of your personal statement, that's okay, because you can go back and work on it. But in order to see the next page of department scholarships, you need to submit that first campus-based opportunities page. Okay? And then you'll see what's called recommended scholarships, which are scholarships that you can also look through that are offered by SJSU, but they do have different requirements as well. So you'll have to read through each one to see if it fits your particular student profile. And if it does, then you can submit an application for that as well. Okay. So it's kind of like 3 levels. It's campus-based is that first page, and then you'll see a page for your department scholarships. and then you'll see recommended opportunities, which are still SJSU scholarships, but they're ones that we wouldn't be able to auto match you with because the criteria are just a little more specific. Okay.
But there is a page for department scholarships?
There is, yeah.
Okay.
You'll see a specific one for College of Education, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. And what's nice about our Spartan application, it's like a one-stop shop. So you don't have to go through and look for the ones that you're eligible for the campus and the department. We'll auto match you on our end. So what that means is once you submit your application, we will match you with the criteria that we have, and then with the information that you give us. And then the ones that you're eligible for will put you automatically in those pools. The
And
ones
we're talking about the information that's asked on the first page,
Yes,
right?
on the first
Okay.
page, yes. The only ones that you would have to actually read through and match yourself with are those recommended opportunities, where the criteria may be like a little more like specific. Like for example, in art, there's a lot of scholarships that require like certain specific projects, but we wouldn't know if like students completed those projects, so they would have to read through them and like select the ones, yeah. Any questions? No. And then for the recommended opportunities, they also may have different deadline dates, so earlier than May 1st. So you just want to make sure you just take a look at those as well and catch the ones that you're eligible for. So this is what it looks like when you log in. You'll sign in with your SJSU ID. If you have any problems with the system itself, please come and see us. I brought my business cards just in case you guys want to grab one as you're leaving, so feel free to take one as well. So it's really important just to apply. I know that was the last statement in the video that Brian shared. There are a lot of scholarships out there. And so I would love for each of you in this room to receive one, and that starts with, putting yourself out there in terms of your application, right? So the first step is just to apply, and to apply for all the scholarships that you're eligible for. Don't negate yourself in the sense of like thinking that, oh, I wouldn't be eligible, or they're looking for a certain type of student. There is no like one student that fits every scholarship, right? We want you to uniquely be you and to be able to just share the traits that you embody and to be able to verbalize that through the written form of a personal statement and have that shown to the scholarship committee, right? So it's important that you are able to commit to this process as you decide to apply for scholarships. There are just various steps, but I'm certain that it'll pay off in the end, just in terms of just the finances that you do receive. Okay, so it's important. Just first step is to apply, and then second is not to miss any of the deadline dates. So it's important if you have just a calendar that you use, or use a notebook. It would be good maybe just to set deadlines for yourself, what we call like internal deadlines. So if May 1st is the hard application deadline, then maybe about a few weeks before, you make a mark of, this is when I want to have my personal statements finalized, right? So then from that date, like maybe a few weeks before that, that's when you want to get it proofread by maybe a peer or peer connections, or a faculty member. So you want to start setting deadlines for yourself that are achievable, but also help you kind of break down everything you need to do, right? Because it can get a little overwhelming as you start. So just make sure that you are prioritizing the things that you need to get done. And I know you have, jobs, and you're just trying to go to class and finish your classes successfully. So it is a lot going on, but I would say, try to carve this in, carve time in terms of just the application process, and reach out for help when you do need it. I think that's another thing. Don't feel like, you can't come and ask us for help. Okay? And then something that I did want to emphasize is following directions. So what that means is on your application, there will be questions that are asked. For example, like personal statement questions. We do have like a word length for each question that we do ask. So it's important that you stay within that word length. For the campus-based opportunities, our main question, the word length is only 500 words. So students actually have trouble fitting everything they need to say within the 500. So that's where you do actually need to make sure that you take some time to work on your personal statement. And that's kind of my final point for this slide is the personal statement is the most important part of your application. I would say this is where you really want to spend some quality time on. And I don't want this to feel like another assignment you have to do, but kind of more an opportunity for you to take time to create a statement about your story, right? Like your own story. And as you do so, to be able to be honest, but also for scholarship purposes, tailor it towards, this specific prompt. However, you can always use that prompt for just other applications that you apply for. You can reuse that prompt every year, right? You don't want to copy and paste it, but I'm sure from now until next year, there will be so many things that, you guys have participated in. So you can always just reuse and kind of retweak once you create like a solid personal statement, right? And so when you are applying, just make sure that you are actually answering the question too. That's kind of a big thing that we see with students is they're kind of thinking that, okay, this personal statement will be kind of a blanket for all the questions. However, you want to make sure you're actually reading the question and answering and tailoring that personal statement to fit the question and answer what they're looking for. I don't know if Danielle, you had, I think,
so I'll chime in, sorry, apologies, I'm still recovering from the flu, I'm not contagious anymore. So thank you for pointing that out of, read the prompt carefully and really do make sure that you're answering the question. So even though there's a more generic personal statement question that is part of the campus-based first step of the application, there will also be a college-specific question that's really talking about what's motivating you to pursue this degree and how this is motivating you to contribute to this field. So you should be talking about that, right? So we actually see the college-based part of the application in addition to, the university-based plus the college one. So if you just do a blanket copy and paste from earlier, that's telling us that you haven't really read through the question because your answer shouldn't be exactly the same from the earlier part to the more college-specific questions. If the question is asking, so one of the scholarships that got mentioned was the Silker in the video about the art, integrating arts into your classroom. If you are applying for that scholarship, which is worth a lot of money, you should be talking about how you integrate art into the classroom. So just making sure that you're reading through the prompts and making sure that you are tailoring your responses to what the donors are actually asking you for. So just make sure to really take a look. And remember too that this is the only information that we, the review committees, are given. We do things anonymously. So I don't know this person's name. I don't know anything other than what you provide for me. So if there's a 500 word limit, it should be close to 500 words. If you only give me 50 words, I have a harder time seeing who you are as a complete person because you haven't provided as much information. So it's not to say everybody should be writing to the exact 500th word, but just make sure you're providing the reader with enough information so we actually know more about who you are. And I don't know if I should get into other, it looks like you've got some. So go for it.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. So definitely you want to make sure that, I think one of the students in the video shared as well too, but to make every word count, this is your opportunity to shine through. Other than, just, I don't even know if maybe they see the major, but other than just very basic information that is anonymous to, we don't disclose student names. So if this is your opportunity to share who you are and for them to see your story. So it's really important that you are just being thoughtful in what you're presenting, as well as being honest and not trying to fit a certain mold, but to share your story. You want it to be unique and you want it to be sharing something that is of importance to you and just to let that passion just genuinely shine through, right? When you read something that you can just sense that, wow, the student is very motivated, is going through things, has gone through things, but will complete their studies here and give back to society. So I think it's just important that you really spend time on your personal statement. Again, there are two areas: the peer connections and the writing center. Those would be two great resources for you to utilize. Peer Connections is in North Garage. I don't know if you guys are familiar there. It's the first floor of the parking garage, North Garage. They're located once you go in, kind of in the back area. They can help you kind of start your personal statement, maybe read through it together. The Writing Center also they do host different workshops to help students with different types of personal statements. So that would be a good opportunity for you to utilize their resources as well. The two personal statement prompts are listed down here. The first one is to explain the importance of your major and field of interest in today's society. So this one is 500 words maximum. And then what is your greatest strength and weakness? So 300 word maximum. So as you can see, they're very broad in terms of the question itself. So it's really, we leave it up to you and how you would want to frame it and how, what direction you want to take. And there is no wrong direction. However, I would recommend having, you can reach out to me or again, the different resources on campus to read it over and make sure that it is, in line with answering the question and also making sure that we understand your story clearly and concisely. Just a note on the system itself, once you paste in your personal statement, it will cut off once it hits the 500 and 300. Okay, so if you're at like 540, it will cut off the remainder of the 40 words. So, you don't want that either because that doesn't look professional, right? Because it'll be just like stop mid-sentence or mid-word. Okay. Any questions about the prompts yet?
Yeah, so the 500 word one that explained the importance of your major field of interest in society is the most important one, right?
I would actually say both are important.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's been interesting, well, as I'm drafting my responses for that first question is, my first couple drafts is like I'm barely talking about myself because I'm just talking about the problems that I see in when I'm studying. So in that sense, it's been kind of a unique personal statement question.
I think definitely we'll need you to tie in your story with society, right? So you want to share, maybe you can start, you can start with either way, but if you're sharing mostly about, like you said, the issues, the concerns you have in today's society, that's great. However, now with what you're studying now, with what you're planning to pursue, how will you benefit the issues that you're seeing, right? And how will you make an impact? And then also maybe kind of putting in as well, what motivated you to want to address these issues? What sparked you to want to pursue what you're studying? To share your story and kind of add that color into it as well. I don't know if Danielle, you have any other, from what you've seen?
Yeah, because I think, well, at least the second one looks like it's new.
The second one is new.
The second one is new.
The second one's
yeah,
new,
so the prompts do change each year. I know the college-wide one is a little bit more specific about what, how are you going to make a difference in the future, like as a future educator, as a future, childcare provider, whatever it might be. So yeah, really talking about the motivation behind it, how your life story has even led you to pursue this, I think is really part of the more the personal angle. Really try to sell yourself. It's very uncomfortable for a lot of us to want to really sell ourselves. But remember, each person on the committee is reviewing maybe 100 plus applications. You need to make yourself memorable, right? You want to make sure that you actually stand out to the person who's reading it. And I still remember a few people who really wrote very passionate, very compelling responses. I still remember those, even though I might have read them 3 years ago. You really want to make sure that you're really selling yourself. And cannot also emphasize this enough, to proofread, which sounds very nitpicky for a bunch of faculty members to ask you to proofread. But remember, some folks are willing to give you $5,000. The least you could do is proofread, right? That you're taking it seriously enough to take the time to proofread, right? So it's not just people trying to be nitpicky and looking for reasons to not give you, a scholarship. It's more about taking it seriously, that you've actually took the time to maybe go to the Writing Center, to go to Peer Connections, to ask a faculty member to take a look. It just tells us that you are serious about this and you worked really hard in polishing it up before actually submitting.
Yes, thank you, Danielle. And then another last point I do want to add for you guys to think about as well is the last bullet point is to talk about your positive impact just on people, on just in the community that you're in. And sometimes students come to me and they're like, I don't know what, I'm not involved, or, it doesn't necessarily have to be clubs or school related. It can be in your community, right? If you are maybe a parent, if you're a daughter, if you're a sister, and, you take your siblings to school every day, or, right after school, you're heading to your second, third job, you're balancing, not only taking care of yourself, but your parents. So there's for each of us our own story, right? So in that, with what we have on our plate, each of us, we're giving back in some way, right? So don't minimize the things that you have on your plate, but you do want to vocalize, right? And as Danielle said, it is kind of strange to be writing about yourself, but you have to remember that we don't know anything other than just basic information. So this is where you do have to actually almost not overshare, but share enough for us to understand kind of your background, where you're coming from, and also what is it that you're involved in now? What are you balancing? Are there things that are specific to you in terms of what's on your plate, right? As a student, as a family member, as a community member, right? So what is it that you're balancing as you're trying to pursue your studies? And again, just the passion, I think that's just the greatest thing, is really just being honest about, what sparked wanting to pursue what you're pursuing, how is it that you want to give back, and it doesn't have to be these grand, notions, but just in the own things that you're convicted by, like to share that and to verbalize that onto into your paper. Any questions about the personal statement? And please feel free again to grab my business card. You could always email me your personal statement and I can take a look at it as well too. Okay, so I did want to include a slide about letters of recommendation. This is something that kind of once students see that, they stop and they're like, okay, that's too much work, I don't want to apply. So I did kind of want to ease any fears that come with a recommendation letter. Some of the scholarships that you'll see on the system may require what we call letter of recommendation. So it will specify specifically if it does have to be an SJSU faculty or staff member. If it does not specify that, it is open to community members. So maybe a mentor or an employer that you've had, but someone who can affirm just your characteristics, right? As a student, maybe they've overseen some work you've done, so they understand your strengths. Not on a personal level per se, but kind of more on like an academic or work level, okay? But also personal as well, but you want it to be someone who has seen you in some type of maybe like supervisor role or just like in an academic setting. Okay? So some options for SJSU may be faculty, staff, any mentors maybe that you have on campus. The first step would be, I would say, to meet with them, maybe drop by during their office hours, catch them after class to see if you can set up just a time that you can drop by their office to request for that letter. Even sending them maybe an email just to even request first. Faculty are people, so they have a lot on their plate. So, don't be discouraged if they do say no. It's not, I'm sure, anything against you as a student. It's just within their boundaries of their workload as well. So make sure that you do first get that yes from them. And then I would recommend giving them maybe a copy of your resume, and then just even a draft of your personal statement so that they can include that in their recommendation letter. So you're almost giving them what you want written in your letter. So you want to make sure that what you give them just maybe things that you're involved in, what you're passionate about. So the first two things that come to my mind are just like a resume, and then also like a draft of your personal statement. And then after you give that to them, on your Spartan application, there will be a field where you can electronically put in their email address. So some things that we've seen in the past, students might misspell a word of the faculty's last name or first name, so it actually doesn't get sent to them. So you just want to really make sure that you're inputting the email address correctly. Once you do that, they'll get an email electronically from our system requesting for that recommendation letter that they'll fill out online, and then it'll automatically match to your application.
Okay, so we just have to put in their email, and then they get the invite, they fill it out, and we don't do
And you're done.
anything from
Exactly.
our side. Okay.
Yeah. But you want to make sure that that confirmation is there with the faculty. That they're okay with writing it for you.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also I would check in with them maybe 2-3 weeks before the deadline date. Again, they're people, so they have a lot on their plate. So maybe just drop by and be like, I know the deadline is coming up soon. Just wanted to make sure, you feel good about, the letter of recommendation. Is there anything that you need from me, at that point? Yeah. And then afterwards, just follow up with a thank you, whether it's just, I feel like snail mail is very rare these days, but just a simple card, or just to follow up and share kind of the status of your application. And if you are awarded, definitely go, share that with them as well, just to keep them updated. And not only for scholarship purposes, but as many of you know, when you apply to graduate studies or just future schooling, recommendation letters are always required. I'm sure minimum of 3 now. So this is just a good way for you to start building those relationships with faculty, asking them, what is it like in your field? What is it like in this field? And so kind of starting to cultivate just those types of professional relationships where you can understand more about the different fields, but also to gain information to help you navigate your process and kind of what you want to achieve in the future as well. Any questions about recommendation letters?
I can just add.
Oh yeah, of course.
That giving folks a bit of a heads up is always better than not. Of usually asking with hopefully with about 4 weeks in advance. I would say try not to be asking people even within 2 weeks. I would definitely try to go before that to give them enough time, enough heads up. I always like to meet with students for at least 15 or 30 minutes to really sit down and just to make sure that I kind of have the student story straight. I always also ask them for at least their resume, and usually if they do have some sort of personal statement, so I'll just echo that. It's always good to have those handy, so that way the letter can be much more personalized to you. There's also programs available like Coffee with a Professor that you could also be inviting them, oh, by the way, I want to invite you to coffee with a professor, and then during your meeting, oh, by the way, I'm starting to apply for scholarships, and a few of them require a letter of recommendation, right? You've already just paid for coffee for them, courtesy of the university. These small little tokens of, taking the initiative to meet with faculty outside of the classroom, they're just always a good way to break down those barriers, have those conversations, start cultivating those relationships to make the process a lot easier, and then it will make the letter also shine more because it will be more personalized and tailored to you.
Right. So a good point on the timeline is that's probably the first thing you would want to do even before your personal statement, because your personal statement you can always work on your own time, but to start even that requesting process of finding individuals who would be willing to write that letter for you, so asking soon. So after you do win a scholarship, there are some scholarships that have specific follow-up criteria. The only criteria that we see are what we call award ceremonies. So these are good things. So they're not like anything you have to do in addition in terms of work, but some of the departments have opportunities. Some of the scholarships have opportunities where you get to meet the donors and actually attend kind of banquets and award ceremonies that give you the opportunity to just celebrate with them and to recognize your achievements. So just read through the email that you do receive once you do get the scholarship. It'll list for you if there are any award ceremonies, if there are any thank you letters that is required by your department to provide to the donors. So just make sure that you are able to follow through on those requirements and communicate back if you are not able to. Okay, so I think once you do receive the scholarship, it's important that you're able to follow through on everything that is requested. And then I did want to kind of share how it would be officially awarded to you in terms of the funds itself. So the scholarships would be added to your financial aid package for the 2020 to 2021 academic year. So what that means is every student on campus has what we call like a cost of attendance budget. So that's comprised of your tuition, of any costs that you have, for example, like textbooks, car, just miscellaneous expenses that you have as a student. So all of that comprises to your cost of attendance. So with that, every student has a budget, and when you are awarded financial aid, you would be awarded grants and loans to help you offset that cost of attendance. When a scholarship comes in, that is considered also part of your financial aid package. So 9 out of 10 times, students will have enough room for the scholarship to fit within that budget, just because, as we know, living in the Bay Area, the budgets are very high because cost of attendance is expensive here. But with that said, some students do max out the threshold of their cost of attendance with multiple scholarships or maybe grants and loans that they're receiving. So at that point, I will reach out to you directly and work with you one-on-one to make sure that we're able to disperse the scholarship to you. That's a very rare case that happens, but I do just want you to be aware of that as well. So the funds for you would be dispersed the first week of the fall semester. Any financial aid, including grants, loans, and scholarships, will be applied to any charges on your account first. So if you have tuition costs, housing costs, it will automatically get applied first. Once that is paid off, then you will get a reimbursement check of anything remaining. Okay. So disbursement won't actually happen until fall semester, the first week. If your scholarship is set to be dispersed half fall, half spring, then, so like let's say you're awarded $1,000, but the donor is intending it to go for half fall and half spring, you'll see $500 the first week of fall semester, and then $500 the first week of spring semester. Okay. Do you guys have direct deposit set up if you're receiving financial aid? Okay, I do highly, highly recommend you set that up. Direct deposit is set up through our bursar's office. They have directions online on it. Basically links your bank account with the university so that any type of reimbursement that you receive will go straight into your bank account. If you don't have it set up, that's okay. It just happens that it'll just be like a check in the mail that gets sent to you. That adds just a couple days to the process. So the quickest and safest way would be direct deposit.
So the due date is May 1st. How fast do you know whether you receive the scholarship?
Yeah, great question. So May 1st closes, and then in the summer for the campus-based opportunities, the committee will review and select students. For campus-based, we start notifying, I would say, beginning of fall semester. But we will let you know one way or another if you did receive a scholarship. You'll get an email, and we'll let you know once we've wrapped up the review as well. Mm-hmm. And then Brian, for department-based?
For the college level, last year we were able to get all the decisions made and the notifications out before the end of the current academic school year, because not all the faculty are around during the summer, so the committee's not really able to meet. So that's the goal for this year too, is to try to review the applications and make all the decisions before we go into the summer.
And that's been a recent change. It used to be that we would meet at the very beginning of the semester for the fall and make the decisions, but then ultimately we realized, well, it's better for you to know where the funds might be coming from ahead of time. So we actually do a bit of a push at the end of the semester to get you all that information before you go off for the summer, so that way you have your financial aid, a little bit of a better idea of how to budget for the next academic year.
Last slide, just a, I would say, just something I want you to be aware of. So scholarship scams, this only applies to your external scholarship search. The campus-based and department-based scholarships, they're safe. But when you are looking for external private-based scholarships, just make sure that you are not ever applying for anything that is asking you for, social security number, bank account routing numbers. You should never be applying for scholarships that's asking you for money. Scholarships are here to help you, not vice versa in terms of finances. So make sure that you're just doing a thorough search. You can always email me if you see something that just doesn't seem right. But make sure it's a credible organization, right? Like large companies, we know they're credible, but the smaller companies, make sure that you're never giving anything out that other than like your name and just personal statement and things like that. Okay. That was it on my end. I think we have maybe 5 minutes for questions. Feel free to just come up and ask as well, but was there anything in general that if you guys had any concerns or questions?
I have a question for the department. Do they separate like the grad and the undergrad, or is it just all together?
So it just depends on, so everything is reviewed as a big group. There's a big pile of numbers of applications, and then they just get automatically divided and randomly assigned to each particular reviewer. So each one of us who's reviewing stuff, I see both undergrad and graduate.
Okay.
Some of the actual scholarship opportunities will actually, part of that auto match, will auto match you to ones that are eligible, maybe if you're only an undergrad.
Okay.
Some of them may only be for graduate students.
Okay.
Some may only be really applicable if you're a counselor ed, master's plus credential student. So usually a lot of that happens with the auto matching.
Okay.
It may also be if you're full-time and part-time. I know that also sometimes comes up too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dana. Okay. If you guys don't have any other questions, thank you guys so much for coming. We'll be up here, so if you have anything that you'd like to ask us specifically, feel free to come up.